John had always believed that life followed a simple pattern. Work, home, maybe a few adventures on Earth, but nothing that would change the course of his existence forever. That belief shattered the moment his ship was caught in the gravitational pull of the uncharted planet. The crash had been violent, ripping metal and fire across the hull, but somehow against every odd he had survived. And now, standing on the jagged alien soil, John realized he had stepped into a world that was alive in ways humans could barely imagine. The sky stretched above him in swirling shades of green and violet. Strange winds carried scents sharp and metallic, making his lungs burn with each breath. The ground beneath his boots pulsed faintly, almost like the heartbeat of the planet itself. John's heart raced in response, both with fear and a thrill he had never known. He had faced dangerous missions before, sure, but nothing like this. Nothing that felt like the universe itself had turned its gaze on him. Ahead, through the mist that clung to the ground like silver smoke, he saw the hall of the alien warlord Vorak. Massive spires of crystal jutted out, catching the strange light and reflecting it in fractured patterns. Each reflection made the hall seem endless, as if it contained 1,000 versions of the same space. And within that hall waited the creature who had been the architect of the trials that had nearly broken him. Vorak himself was a towering figure, taller than any human could hope to be, with skin like molten metal and eyes that burned with intelligence and danger. John could feel the weight of those eyes on him, the judgment they carried. It was the gaze of someone who had seen countless challengers, warriors and soldiers fall at his feet, and yet here he was, human, alive, and standing. "You survived," Vorak's voice boomed, shaking the air itself. "Few can. Fewer still succeed in the trials of valor. You have fought machines designed to tear flesh from bone, navigated storms that could erase a planet's surface, and outwitted traps that would trap even the cleverest minds. You are unusual." John could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on him like the heavy alien sky above. He had fought countless enemies, dodged traps designed to kill instantly, and survived storms that could have shredded him to pieces. But nothing had prepared him for this, choosing between Lyra and Saren. Two warriors, two friends, two beings who had become far more than that in the short time he had known them. Lyra stepped slightly closer, her silver skin glinting in the strange green light, the glow outlining her form like a halo. She smiled at him, gentle and encouraging, a smile that seemed to say, "I trust you. I believe in you." Her eyes searched his, full of warmth, and John felt a pull in his chest, a feeling he couldn't name but knew was powerful. She had saved him during the first trial, her quick thinking preventing certain death when the collapsing tunnels threatened to bury him alive. Saren, however, was different. Her midnight blue skin absorbed the light around her, making her look as if she were part shadow, part fire. She didn't step forward. She didn't need to. Her gaze alone commanded attention, challenging John, daring him to stand up to the impossible. She had faced the war machines with him, charging into battle without hesitation, protecting him when even he doubted his own strength. Her presence made his heart pound with adrenaline and something more primal, a mixture of fear, respect, and admiration. The hall seemed impossibly quiet now, the crystal walls reflecting their three images 1,000 times over. Like mirrors to the soul, Vorak's shadow loomed behind them, massive and unforgiving. "Decide," the warlord's voice thundered. "You cannot take both. Only one. Choose." John shook his head slowly. How could he? Each instinct in his body screamed at him to follow the rules. Choose one. Obey. Survive. But another instinct, stronger and more human than any rule, rose in him, a need to do what was right, not what was expected, to honor courage, loyalty, and the bonds he had formed. Could he really leave one of them behind? Could he watch someone who had risked everything for him simply return to a life without him, while he claimed the other as his reward? Lyra stepped even closer, and he noticed a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. "John, you don't have to." She started but stopped herself, her words lost in the tension of the moment. Saren's voice was low and steady, almost a whisper yet filled with fire. "I can take it if you must choose, human. I will not complain. I am strong enough to survive it." Her gaze did not waver, but John could feel the unspoken plea behind it. Neither of them wanted to be left behind. Both deserved more than to be treated like prizes. His hands clenched at his sides. He had never felt so powerless yet so determined. He could see the subtle differences in how they moved, the way their expressions shifted under stress. He could see bravery, intelligence, and heart shining in both of them. The rules didn't account for loyalty, for friendship, for love, or whatever this strange bond he felt between them all was. Vorak's patience was fading. The alien's voice grew sharper, more dangerous. Time is short, human. Decide or lose both. I tire of your hesitation. John's jaw tightened. He closed his eyes for a brief moment, feeling the memories of the trials rush back. The collapsing tunnels, the firestorms, the war machines. The moments where either Lyra or Saren had risked themselves for him. He remembered the fear in their eyes, the determination, the trust. He realized then that this was more than a test of survival. It was a test of what it meant to be human. Opening his eyes, John took a deep breath. He looked first at Lyra, then at Saren. I cannot pick just one of you, he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. You both fought. You both saved me. You both matter. I won't leave either behind. I won't follow a rule that forces me to choose between people who mean everything to me. The hall seemed to hold its breath. The two women blinked in shock, and even Vorak's towering form seemed to hesitate. John felt his heart pound in his chest. He knew this defiance could cost him everything. But for the first time, fear was mixed with something else. Pride. Pride in being human. Pride in trusting his instincts. Lyra's hand twitched, almost reaching for his. Saren's lips curved in a subtle, approving smirk. Neither spoke, but John could feel the unspoken acknowledgement of his choice. This was not just about survival anymore. It was about courage. About loyalty. About humanity standing tall, even in the face of impossible odds. And John had made his choice, not based on rules, but on heart. John's declaration hung in the air like an unbreakable shield. He had defied the rules of Vorak's world, and now the warlord's towering figure seemed to ripple with anger. The massive alien clenched his fists, and the crystals lining the hall shivered under the force of his presence. Foolish human, Vorak's voice thundered, shaking the walls. You dare disobey me? You dare break the laws of this planet? John stood his ground, chest tight with both fear and determination. He could feel his pulse hammering in his ears, the distant rumble of the planet beneath them almost echoing his heartbeat. But in that fear was a strange strength, the strength that came from knowing he was doing the right thing. He had faced monsters, machines, and storms. He could face this. Lyra stepped closer, her silver skin gleaming softly under the alien light. Her hand trembled slightly as if reaching for him, but she stopped herself. Her eyes were wide, filled with a mixture of awe and fear. John, are you sure? She asked quietly, her voice barely audible against Vorak's fury. Saren's midnight blue gaze locked onto him with fiery intensity. This is reckless, she said, her tone sharp, but underneath it was pride. But I trust you. If you believe in this, then I will follow. Her hand brushed lightly against her side, a subtle acknowledgement of readiness to stand by him no matter the cost. Vorak's growl echoed through the hall. Rules exist for a reason. You cannot bend them. You cannot ignore them. One human. Only one! John shook his head. Maybe your rules are wrong, he said, his voice firmer now, steadier. Maybe rules are meant to be challenged. I'm human. Humans don't just follow, they decide. We make choices based on what's right, not what's expected. The silence that followed was electric. Even the guard shifted nervously, unsure of how to respond. Vorak's face darkened, his rage visible in the tightening of his muscles, the flare of his eyes. He had never met a human like John, a creature small by comparison but colossal in courage and defiance. Lyra's lips parted slightly. You really mean that? She whispered. Her voice trembled, but it carried hope. She had fought alongside John, survived alongside him, and now she saw a side of him she hadn't fully understood before, a side that would not compromise for fear, a side that would stand for what mattered most. Saren's smirk returned, faint but unmistakable. I like that about you, human, she said softly, though the fire in her eyes never dimmed. Her body relaxed slightly, signaling a shift from tension to trust. She had faced him in battle, and now she faced him in choice, and she approved. Vorak slammed his fist against the crystalline floor. The sound cracked through the hall like thunder. But John did not flinch. He had stood firm against far worse, against machines that could crush him, against storms that could tear his body apart. He could stand against Vorak too. I won't pick one, John said, lifting his head, letting his voice carry across the hall. I won't leave either of them behind. They are not prizes. They are not rewards. They are equals. They are my friends, my allies, and I will not abandon them. The two women stepped closer, one on each side. Lyra's hand hovered near his arm. A subtle gesture of connection while Saren's eyes never left his. A quiet acknowledgement of loyalty and respect. John felt a wave of warmth through him. The warmth of trust, the warmth of courage shared. Vorak's fury was palpable, but for the first time, doubt flickered in his eyes. No human had ever dared speak like this, never challenged his authority with such unyielding conviction. This small, fragile creature, this human, had survived trials designed to break the strongest aliens, and now he was breaking rules deliberately, without fear. John took a slow, steady breath. He did not know what the consequences would be. He did not know if Vorak would strike or if guards would attack, or if this choice could cost him his life. But he knew one thing. The human heart had a way of finding courage when everything else demanded fear. Lyra and Saren mirrored his stance, ready to face whatever came next, standing with him not because he commanded it, but because he had chosen them. And in that choice, John felt a surge of power. Power not from weapons or strength, but from trust, from unity, from the raw, unbreakable spirit of being human. Vorak's eyes narrowed, the tension in the hall like a coiled spring. John's chest rose and fell steadily. He was ready. Whatever came next, he would face it with both Lyra and Saren at his side. Together, they were more than survivors. They were a force no one could expect, a force that could not be contained, and that, John realized, was exactly why he could never pick just one. John could feel the tension in the hall thick enough to choke on. Vorak's massive shadow loomed over them, his anger radiating like heat from molten metal. But for the first time, John did not feel small. He felt alive, fierce, human. And humans, he realized, had a strange talent for defying odds. He looked at Lyra and Saren. Lyra's silver eyes were wide, uncertain but trusting. Saren's midnight blue gaze burned with challenge, daring him to step beyond fear. They had followed him through death traps, storms, and mechanical beasts that could have ended them all. Now they were standing with him in a test unlike any other, a test of courage, defiance, and loyalty. "I choose both of you," John said, his voice steady, unwavering. "I won't leave either behind. I won't follow a rule that treats you like property or prizes. We survive together or not at all." For a heartbeat, the hall seemed to freeze. Even the air felt suspended as if holding its breath. Vorak's massive hands clenched into fists, the crystalline floor cracking beneath the force of his anger. "Impossible," the warlord thundered. "No human has ever dared, no one." John did not flinch. He took a careful step forward, bringing himself closer to the two women. Lyra's hand brushed against his arm, tentative but comforting, while Saren's eyes never left his, steady and approving. For the first time, John realized the true strength of humans. Courage was not measured in size or firepower, but in choices made when every expectation demanded otherwise. Vorak roared, slamming his foot into the floor. The shockwave rattled the hall, throwing shards of crystal into the air. Guards and lesser warriors flinched, but John held his ground, standing taller than he had ever stood in his life. Beside him, Lyra and Saren mirrored his resolve, their presence a living testament to unity and trust. "You defy me," Vorak bellowed, and for the first time, John thought he saw hesitation flicker in the alien warlord's eyes. He had expected fear to break him, expected obedience, but humans did not bend so easily. Humans made impossible choices and stood by them. Humans held to loyalty, friendship, and courage even when the odds were stacked against them. Lyra's voice trembled slightly but rang clear. "John, you're really doing this?" She took a step closer, her hand almost touching his chest. "Even if it means everything could go wrong?" John nodded. "Even then, you both matter. I can't pick one. I won't, that's human. That's what we do. We protect. We fight. We choose what's right even when it's impossible." Saren's lips curved into a faint smirk, fierce but proud. "I like humans," she said softly, her voice low and deliberate. "Especially ones who don't follow rules they know are wrong." Vorak's fury escalated, the ground quaking beneath his steps. Energy sparks crackled around him, a storm of power ready to strike. "You will pay for this insolence," he growled, advancing toward them. John did not move back. Instead, he raised his hands, not in surrender but in preparation. Lyra and Saren moved with him, instinctively coordinating, each ready to defend, to fight, to survive. In that moment, John realized something extraordinary. He was no longer alone. He was part of something bigger, stronger, unstoppable. The bond between them was more powerful than fear, more enduring than the threat of death. The first blast of energy struck, sending a wave across the hall. John felt it brush against him, but he didn't falter. Lyra extended her hand, her silver glow amplifying the shield of energy. Saren stepped forward, her strength weaving with his and Lyra's to form a barrier that deflected the attack. The combined force of three beings, human and alien, silver and blue, pushed back against the warlord's might. Vorak staggered, unprepared for the unity he faced. No human before had fought beside two alien warriors in perfect coordination, their spirits intertwined, their courage unbreakable. For the first time, John felt the power of choice, the power of standing firm, refusing to abandon what was right. Breathing heavily, John looked at the two women beside him. Their eyes held the same awe, the same trust, and the same resolve. He realized then that this moment was more than survival. It was proof that humans, when standing for what mattered most, could turn the impossible into reality. Vorak's roar shook the hall again, but John's determination did not waver. They had broken the rules, yes, but in doing so they had shown something greater: courage, loyalty, and the unyielding spirit that defined humanity. And that spirit would not be crushed. The hall trembled as Vorak's fury erupted like a storm. Crystals cracked under the force of his anger, sending shards glinting like deadly stars across the polished floor. Guards and lesser warriors scattered to the sides, fear etched in every movement. But John did not step back. His heart pounded, his chest rose and fell with determination. He had chosen to stand for what was right, and he would not falter now. Lyra moved beside him, her silver glow intensifying. Her hands lifted and energy flared around her like liquid light. She had been calm during the trials, clever in her strategies, but now, for the first time, she radiated something more. Faith. Faith in John and faith in the impossible. Saren, her midnight blue skin shining with a subtle aura of power, positioned herself opposite John. Her stance was strong, defiant, and filled with fire. Together, the three of them formed a triangle of strength, courage, and unity. Vorak roared again, swinging his massive arms, and a wave of energy burst from him. It slammed into the hall, shaking the walls and floor. John felt the force push him back, but he did not yield. Lyra raised her hands, channeling a protective shield, while Saren leapt forward, her power weaving into his own. The three forces combined, deflecting the attack and sending it crashing harmlessly into the ceiling. Sparks danced in the air, and the sound of cracking crystal filled the hall. Impossible, Vorak bellowed, his anger and disbelief mixing into a dangerous cocktail. No human, no two aliens, can withstand me. John's gaze met Vorak's, steady and unwavering. We're not just human or alien, he said, his voice firm. We're stronger when we stand together. We protect each other. We don't leave anyone behind. Lyra's voice was soft but full of resolve. He's right. Together we are unstoppable. She moved closer, energy flowing between her and John, a tangible connection of trust and shared strength. Saren's eyes gleamed, pride and fire mingling. No one expected this. Not you, not anyone, she said, a hint of a smile tugging at her lips. Vorak's shadow darkened, energy crackling violently around him. He lunged forward, a strike meant to crush John instantly. But the three of them reacted as one. John ducked and rolled. Saren deflected a second blast with a sweep of her arm, and Lyra's shield shimmered to life, blocking shards of crystal that fell from the ceiling. For the first time, Vorak realized that the human had changed the rules entirely. He had not just survived. He had rewritten the battle itself. The guards who had followed Vorak's commands now hesitated. They had never seen such unity, such courage, and such defiance. The human stood in the middle, flanked by two alien women whose strength matched his own. They were not mere warriors. They were a force no one could predict, a force that combined intellect, fire, and heart. John felt a rush of emotion. Fear was there, yes, but beneath it was a surge of pride, of awe, and of something more: connection. He had never felt this kind of bond with anyone before. Lyra had saved his life with clever thinking. Saren had fought beside him with fearless determination. And now, standing here together, they were more than allies. They were family of choice. Vorak roared once more, a sound meant to crush spirit and body alike. but it lacked the certainty it once held. His attacks grew erratic, almost frustrated, as if he could not comprehend the human and the two aliens refusing to break under pressure. Every strike was met with unity, every attack countered with courage, and every attempt to intimidate was dissolved by the sheer force of loyalty. John caught a glance from Lyra. Her silver eyes met his, and he saw trust, gratitude, and pride. Then Saren's gaze met his, burning with admiration and challenge alike. He realized in that moment that they were more than capable of surviving this together. It was not just him protecting them. It was them protecting each other and him. As Vorak faltered, unsure of how to continue, John felt an overwhelming sense of clarity. This was what it meant to be human, to rise above fear, to protect those who mattered, to challenge rules that were wrong, and to trust in bonds stronger than any law. He had chosen both Lyra and Saren, and in doing so, he had proven something far greater than courage in battle. He had proven that unity, loyalty, and heart could turn even the most impossible situation into a victory of spirit. The warlord's anger still burned, but his control had weakened. For the first time, John and the two women were not just survivors. They were a force that even Vorak could not easily crush. And standing together, hearts pounding, eyes locked in mutual trust, they knew one truth. Whatever came next, they would face it together. And together they were unstoppable. The hall was quiet now, the echoes of Vorak's fury fading into tense silence. John, Lyra, and Saren stood together, breathing heavily. Their bodies bruised and clothes torn, but their spirits unbroken. The three of them had faced impossible odds, defied a warlord, and survived a force that could have ended their lives in an instant. And in that survival, something remarkable had been forged: trust, loyalty, and a bond that went beyond words. Lyra stepped closer to John, her silver skin gleaming softly in the fractured light. Her hand brushed against his arm, a gentle connection that sent warmth through him. "I didn't think anyone would stand like that," she whispered. "Not even humans are supposed to defy Vorak, but you did it?" Her voice trembled slightly, but there was pride there, too, a quiet awe at the courage she had witnessed firsthand. Saren's midnight blue eyes never left him, her fire now tempered with respect. "You really are different, human," she said softly, the smirk tugging at her lips again. "Most would have chosen fear. Most would have obeyed, but you fight for what's right, not just what's easy." Her gaze softened as she glanced at Lyra. "And you brought her here too, standing together. That's remarkable." John shook his head, exhaling slowly. "I didn't do it alone. None of us did. We survived because we trusted each other, because we fought together, and because we refused to leave anyone behind. That's what humans do. That's what we're capable of when we stand with others." Lyra's lips curved into a small, shy smile. "I never expected to feel safe," she admitted. "Not here. Not anywhere in this place. But with you, with both of you, I feel like we can survive anything." Saren stepped forward, reaching out her hand to both of them. "We are stronger together," she said simply. "I see it now. We protect each other not because someone tells us to, but because we choose it. That's worth more than any victory, more than any prize Vorak could offer." John nodded, feeling a surge of emotion. Fear, pride, awe, and an unexpected warmth all swirled within him. He had faced death countless times in his life, but never had he felt anything like this. The strength of three beings united, not by rules, not by obligation, but by choice, was intoxicating. It was something raw, something pure, something entirely human. They took a moment to breathe, to stand together and feel the bond that had formed in the crucible of trials and danger. Every glance, every subtle touch, every small gesture of trust had built a connection that could not be broken by threats or fear. It was a quiet kind of power, one that Vorak could not comprehend, one that no machine, storm, or crystal barrier could destroy. Vorak's presence still loomed, but even he hesitated. The warlord had seen many warriors, many challengers, but he had never faced unity like this. Humans and aliens standing side by side, defying his rules with nothing but courage and choice. The realization seemed to shake him, though he did not speak. John looked at Lyra and Saren, his chest swelling with something he couldn't fully name. Gratitude, relief, a fierce joy that came from knowing he was not alone, that he had found allies who were not just strong but loyal, brave, and courageous. "We've made it this far together," he said softly, "and we'll continue together. No one gets left behind. Not now, not ever." Lyra nodded, her eyes bright. "Together," she agreed. Saren's smirk widened slightly, but her expression softened. "Together," she repeated, her voice full of fire and trust. In that moment, the trials, the danger, and the fear of the alien world faded into the background. What mattered now was the bond they had forged, the unspoken promise to stand with each other, to protect each other, to face whatever came next as one. It was more than survival. It was victory in its purest form, a triumph of courage, trust, and the human spirit. John realized that this was what made humans extraordinary. Not their strength, not their weapons, not their technology, but their ability to love, to trust, to risk everything for what was right. And in choosing both Lyra and Saren, he had honored that truth. They were no longer merely allies. They were family of choice, and that bond was unbreakable. As the green light of the alien sky spilled across the hall, John, Lyra, and Saren stood side by side, hearts beating in unison. Together they had defied a warlord. Together they had survived. Together they had proven that courage, loyalty, and the human spirit could overcome even the most impossible odds. And together they were unstoppable. The hall was quiet now, the echoes of battle fading into a tense stillness. Vorak, the massive warlord who had ruled with fear and power, stood frozen, unable to comprehend what he had just witnessed. A human had defied him, and not just alone. He had brought 2 alien warriors to stand by his side. Together they had faced impossible odds, and together they had survived. John's chest rose and fell, sweat and dust clinging to his skin. Lyra and Saren stood beside him, their hands brushing against his, their eyes reflecting the unspoken truth that bound them together. They were alive, unbroken, and stronger for it. It was a feeling John had never known before, a mix of relief, pride, and something more profound, connection. Vorak's massive figure finally spoke, his voice lower, subdued, but still tinged with anger. "Humans, always surprising," he muttered. "You defy rules, challenge authority, and yet you survive. You keep them, all 3 of you. But remember, this defiance will be remembered." John's lips curved into a small, confident smile. "We don't just survive, Vorak. We endure. We protect. We fight for what's right." His voice was calm, steady, filled with a certainty that came from more than courage. It came from heart. Lyra looked at him with awe in her silver eyes. "You really meant it. Choosing both of us," she whispered. "Even when it was dangerous, even when it could have killed us all." Saren's smirk returned, faint but fierce. "I thought humans were reckless," she said, her voice warm with pride. "But you take it to a whole new level. And somehow it works." John shook his head. "It's not about recklessness. It's about choice. About standing for what matters. About not leaving anyone behind. That's human. That's why we can survive even the impossible." The 3 of them exchanged a glance, and in that glance was something unspoken, yet powerful. It was trust, loyalty, and unity all in one. It was the kind of bond forged not by orders or rules, but by choice, courage, and shared danger. It was more than survival, it was triumph. Vorak finally turned away, defeated in spirit if not in body. The warlord had lost more than a battle. He had seen firsthand the unpredictable, unbreakable strength of humans and the power of bonds that could not be commanded. "Go," he muttered. "Go together. But the universe remembers rule breakers." John, Lyra, and Saren stepped forward, leaving the shattered hall behind. Each step they took was confident, filled with the knowledge that they had faced death and emerged victorious, not because of strength alone, but because of heart, courage, and unity. The green light of the alien sky spilled over them, and for a moment the world seemed brighter, warmer, and alive with possibility. Lyra reached for John's hand, her fingers intertwining with his. Saren's hand touched his other side, a firm, reassuring connection. For the first time, John understood the true meaning of trust, of partnership, of love that transcended boundaries, species, and expectation. They were no longer 3 individuals standing alone. They were a single force united by choice and spirit. "Together," John whispered, and both women echoed the word, their voices blending in harmony. Together they had faced the impossible. Together they had defied rules, expectations, and fear itself. Together they were